Okay, Paulo, counters to hanging guard. Based off your technique this morning, I wanted to go over a couple pieces on this one that I find useful, and then some ways that I counter it. Okay, so your first one is, and your description of sort of how hanging guard is this annoying presence in your face is exactly right, and it draws exactly what you're looking for, right? So if we go over that base technique that you were talking about, I go to sweep it out of the way, he avoids it, and then he's going to either re-enter, or on the next one I do it again. Here he avoids, and he comes in and stabs me. So that is exactly the annoying bit of hanging guard, and there's a number of different systems. You'll see in different Saber systems, some people do hanging guard not as this offensive threat, but this as this cross guard, but we're dealing with this as like this point in your face. Also, it doesn't have to be hanging. I've also seen versions of it where it's offline like this, and it's doing the same thing that hanging guard is, but it's doing it from a side position. But it offers all the same problems because the weapon is still in your face. And if you go full-on Spanish rapier style, if I'll do it to the camera, you'll see something like that. But I don't do that, so anyway, whatever. Okay, so he's got it in my face. What I want to do is get this out of my face because it's constipating everything that I want to do coming forward. So I will do if I move forward and I go to bat something out of the way, I want to take advantage of that movement. So I'm going to bat this out of the way, and then I'm going to immediately crash because I've moved that offline. I don't want to just I don't want to just hit it and let him bring it back, right? It's easy to do, but if I'm going to commit to this, now I've got an opening and I'm going to take it. So I'm going to use this as bat roof crash. Is going to be my entry line here as I come in. So regardless of the line, and it doesn't matter what he does. Either if I fail, or so he moves it out of the way, he avoids the hit, I'm going to immediately crash that line. I also do a drawback, right? So I go to hit here, and I'm crashing that line anyway as I move in. So that's the first one. That's going to be a fast roof crash. So he brings it off online, boom, and I'm immediately entering into that line. So that's the first one, is just roof crash it. But I'm going off the response that, quite frankly, you're looking for, right? You're looking for me to do that. So even if you bring that point, so now just bring it straight back, right? And you keep that point on, I'm immediately entering with my roof crash, with my rising pile underneath that blade or stick to enter. So roof crash as a counter to hanging guard. Next one is this thrust to the wrist. So he brings that online. Give me a good grip. Not the next one. Okay, so that's a good grip. So because this is oriented at my face here, and that's annoying, remember, as long as our weapon lengths are the same, I'm going to target his wrist. So if that's in his face, I'll have low guard here, and I'm actually going to straight thrust to his wrist here. Is that there? Absolutely, right? Now, could we both counter thrust? I can, but the idea here is that I'm going after a shallower target than he is, right? Either body or face, it doesn't matter. We'll be lined up here, and that's my counter thrust. I don't want a perfectly reciprocal line because then we stab each other, but usually, again, just like you're talking about, that thing's aimed at your face. So we're here, bang, I want to thrust to the wrist. Okay? Again, when you talk about non-telegraphic motion, I know you don't like that term, but this is where I would use it as this explosive forward shot coming into the arm here and back. Anyway, so that's the counters to it. As to when you can use it, so if any thrust where I impale him, okay, we're done with that. Any thrust where I hit him, I'm always open for a counter, right? Regardless, because I'm extended and my point is stuck, presumably if it was sword, if not, I've thrust, and I'm extended, obviously all of my rest of my body's open. So what I will do is hit. Now, wherever he's going, so raise your arm, pretend like you're going to hit me. So he's giving me a number one, right? So I will thrust, and then I'm going to come in to cover whatever that angle is. So we're out here, move your arm, I thrust, now hit me, bang, right? That might be a line where I go to hit. So wherever my thrust is, maybe there's a thrust to the face, if that number 1 is coming, I'll cover here, outside Pyong, right? Maybe there's a backhand line I thrust, I'll cover to Pyong. It doesn't really matter the angle, but the point is I use that center pivot point to wrench and open. What I'm not trying to do is pivot, pull, and extract. Obviously that depends on, like, you know, if my sword is buried up to here in him, I'm just kind of hosed because he's going to get the counter on me. At which point, if I have to use my other hand for it. So anyway, some ideas. Obviously, with stick fighting, we're not actually doing that. I get my thrust, wherever my thrust is, and then I'm immediately going, get my hit and counter, hit and drive to wherever his arm is. It can be wherever his chamber is. I'm predicting where he's going. If he was on a low chamber here, and I hit this thrust here, I'm not waiting for him to stab. I'm just assuming he's there. And I'm going to go and wrench down and try to hopefully cover that line. And maybe he pulls it back up. So, and I miss it. That's obviously when my other hand comes into play. So anyway, hope that helps. I look forward to sparring you sometime and see how these work. See ya.